Welcome to the Transformed Homemakers Society podcast. This is for the Christian mother who loves her children, but she feels like she's barely surviving. So if you've ever woken up dreading the day or counting down the hours until bedtime, if you're touched out by the people you love most, if you're always on edge, reacting before you can even think, you're not crazy. You're under chronic stress. And I've been there too, and the Lord showed me a way out. I'm Kiri, the founder of the Transformed Homemaker Society, and this podcast is where we escape survival mode and find genuine peace and delight in motherhood, becoming the calm, joyful mother you always wanted to be.
I spent thousands of dollars chasing relief as a burned out Christian mother. Thousands of dollars on supplements and detoxes and gadgets and therapies, only to end up more tired, more frustrated, and more confused and more hopeless. And I knew that something was off. And I chased relief because I didn't know what was going on. And maybe you felt it too, that ache that something must be missing, something in your diet, some secret supplement, some tool that would finally fix you. And for a while, I believed it. Each new purpose promised hope. Each new protocol gave me hope, like maybe this will finally be the answer, but it never was. So today I am sharing the purchases that I regret the most because they cost me thousands of dollars and years of peace. And more importantly is that I'm going to show you what actually ended up working for me. So many of us mothers are wasting time, money, and emotional energy chasing surface level fixes. And the longer we chase, the deeper we sink into discouragement, thinking nothing's going to work for me. I know this because I lived it. I bought all the powders and planners and oils and tests and supplements and detoxes, went completely non-toxic, and none of it gave me the peace-filled home that I longed for. So you're going to see the real reason why so many Christian mothers stay stuck in survival mode no matter how many things they try. And I'll show you the exact system that finally set me free. Keep in mind, some of these things might actually have helped you or are currently helping you. And if that's the case, I think that's wonderful. Don't change a thing. This is just what I personally experienced and what helped me finally find lasting relief. If you're in a similar place that I was, where you're just kind of hopeless right now. First, I turn to where most people who are lucky enough to afford it turn to when they're struggling: therapy. I know this one's going to be controversial, but therapy didn't work for me and it drained my bank account. And I tried probably about half a dozen different counselors who each had different approaches to their therapy. And while some Christian counselors are truly incredible, don't get me wrong, they are quite few and far between. And I spent more time searching for the right one than actually healing. And it felt just really discouraging. Next, hiring more childcare or housekeeping help. I thought that if I just had more free time, I'd finally feel calm and capable and our house would be at peace. And this really was the next most logical step. And I did. I was burnt out. I needed more help. It takes a village, right? That's what I told myself. So I hired help. And yes, it gave me more time. But here's the thing. The same stress, the same overwhelm, the same reactivity showed up just the same, just in different scenarios. And then next is I turn to supplements. Now, I'm not knocking supplements. There's a time and a place to use them. I'm not knocking any of these things. There's always a time and place to use any of these things. This is just what didn't help for me. So there's a time and a place for supplements, yes, but I went on what I call the supplement merry-go-round, where I was chasing relief from symptoms with supplements. And then because I noticed that I was just throwing supplements at the problem without knowing what actually I was deficient in, I did all the tests. I did blood tests, hair analysis tests, you name it, all the tests, so that I could get accurate information on what supplements I actually needed to be taking. And I thought I was doing supplementing the right way by spending hundreds of dollars on, the testing before spending hundreds of more dollars on the supplements themselves, that of course you have to be on forever. But even then, I was missing the point. Supplements were never meant to be the foundation of our health. They're just that. They're a supplement. something to fill a temporary gap, not a crutch to keep me going. And while the tests did give me data, they couldn't help me with the deeper truth about why I was so depleted and stressed and overwhelmed. And the real problem wasn't a magnesium deficiency that a capsule could fix, or low iron that beef liver was supposed to restore, or even a gut imbalance that probiotics promised to heal. The root issue was that my nervous system was stuck in survival mode. And until I addressed that, and once I began rebuilding rhythms of peace and calm in my actual daily life, I was finally able to step off of that supplement merry-go-round completely. Now I'll use a supplement here and there for a short season if I feel like I need to fill some sort of gap, but it no longer is something that I am on any sort of regular regimen. So then this transpired into a new epiphany, which is supplements, like in a capsule form, that's not going to give you what you need. It's all about food-based supplements. So then food-based supplements just replaced by, capsules. And I thought, this must be the missing piece. Not capsules, but real nutrient-dense foods in their most natural form. So I read something and think, yes, I'm low in iron or vitamins A, D, or B, or whatever. And instead of capsules, I would take cod liver oil or Brazil nuts or oysters. And those of you who are like in that space right now, and you know what I'm talking about. You're nodding your head right now. For those of you who are not and have not crossed into this realm of health and wellness, you're like, what are you talking about? But I was treating them like medicine instead of food. And it felt smarter, more natural, even more biblical in a way. But the truth is I was still chasing healing in the same way, hoping that one more superfood would finally fix the chronic exhaustion and overwhelm in my body. Newsflash, it didn't work. Not for me. So the next thing is plant-based hormone balancers. So I'm talking things like ashwagandha, adaptogens, St. John's wort. So this was the next stage of my chase. After supplements and then food-based supplements, I moved into plant-based hormone balancers. Things, like I said, ashwagandha to calm anxiety and stress, adaptogens to boost energy, St. John's wort to lift mood. Everywhere I turned, someone was promising that this herb or plant could finally fix the chronic fatigue, the irritability, the crazy mood swings, the rage that I was feeling, the overstimulation from the moment that I woke up in the morning until the moment that I went to bed. I had zero resilience whatsoever, and so it was obvious that something was off. But the never-ending emotional roller coaster I was on never resolved with even these, plant-based mood balancers. So, since I was desperate, of course, I tried them all. And for a little while, I probably with some of these things did notice tiny shifts. A fleeting calm in the morning, or, maybe just a small lift in my mood, but it never lasted. And that's the point. So within days or weeks, I don't think it ever lasted weeks, but I would say probably more likely within days, the exhaustion returned, the irritability crept back in, and the stress spikes were just as high as before. And then I felt even more discouraged because I'm like, okay, nothing is working for me. So here's the thing. These plants are wonderful in the right context. They can support healthy stress responses and mood for some people. But for me, and maybe for you too, the problem wasn't just a chemical imbalance that could be corrected with herbs. It was that my nervous system was constantly on high alert, misreading ordinary life as dangerous for whatever reason. My brain and body were stuck in survival mode, and no amount of herbal support could fix the underlying hypersensitivity that I was feeling. So the pattern was familiar. I would take an herb, hope for relief, get a brief shift, then crash again. And it was almost addictive in a way. I kept thinking like the next thing would be the cure for me, or like the next combination, because, with supplements and herbs and things like that, it's this whole, if you take one, you have to take another so that that one can be properly absorbed. It's like this whole thing. And so it felt productive, like I was doing something for myself, like I was in control because I was doing something. But in reality, it was just another layer of chasing relief instead of addressing the root cause. It wasn't about the herbs. It was about retraining my brain calming my nervous system and learning how to respond to life instead of reacting to it. So that's when real change happened for me. Once I addressed the overstimulation and the patterns of my brain, my body finally started to find relief. But I didn't figure that out at this point. I still had a few more things I needed to try. So next is I watched something. I can't remember what it was, but I learned she was talking about this essential oils protocol from, I feel bad naming the name, but you could probably guess the essential oil brand I'm talking about. There's only like a couple really big ones. But it was this hormone kit for mood management. And the same story here. I tried and then felt no relief and then felt discouraged and then on to the next. And this protocol was hundreds of dollars. And my poor husband, he was so gracious. But anyways, so then after that didn't work, I went on to the next thing, which was detox protocols. So I learned somewhere that unless you detox, your body can't even hold on to essential nutrients. So that idea felt like the missing piece, another epiphany, the missing piece of the puzzle. If I just flushed out my toxins, my magnesium, my iron, my probiotics, everything I was taking could finally work. So I dove in. I did cleanses, detox teas, binders, charcoal tablets, liver flushes, you name it. Each promised to purge my body of the impurities and reset my system. And the reality is, though, that all these did was give me a tummy ache and made me use the bathroom a lot. So I found no lasting relief from those. The truth was the same as with the supplements and the herbs and the oils. My nervous system was stuck in survival mode. No external cleanse could fix the chronic overstimulation, the trauma responses that I was feeling, the fight or flight wiring that made every day feel unbearable for me. My body wasn't holding on to nutrients, not because of toxins alone, because actually our bodies were made to and designed to release toxins in various different ways, but it was reacting to stress and dysfunction at the deepest level. Okay, I'm going to get into that. Okay, so one more thing. I tried electrolyte packets and hydration powders, like the Element and all of that. I actually made my own. But the thought here was that I'm actually flushing out all the minerals in my body that my body needs by staying hydrated, because everyone's like, especially as a nursing, pregnant mother, nursing mother, everyone's like, you have to hydrate, you have to hydrate, you have to hydrate, to keep your milk supply up. But then you're flushing out all your minerals because you're staying so hydrated. So I had to replenish those minerals by using electrolyte packs, or making my own electrolyte powders or things like that. So I thought that was the missing piece. It wasn't. Okay, actually, I do have a couple more. Another thing that I tried was special planners or time blocking systems, things that would help me to just stay more organized when it comes to time management. These are amazing. And I actually still love my planners, but they're kind of just like a bonus in my life of just making my life easier and more enjoyable, but they didn't address the issue and the work that actually needed to be done in my heart and in my mind. So anyways, they didn't solve my constant stress is what I'm saying. The next thing is decluttering, and I would go on like minimalism binges and just like decluttering binges. So minimalism became all the rage during this time in like my healing journey. And I thought, okay, I'm probably just suffocating in all of my things. So if I just declutter, I can finally clear my mind and feel less overwhelmed by all the visual chaos. And I genuinely do love a simple clutter-free home, but even that didn't hold a candle to the deep stress I was carrying inside. All right, next. And this is the last one, is food elimination diets. So I restricted my diet like crazy. Dairy-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, all the things I cut out of my diet, convinced that I had some hidden food intolerance causing all the symptoms that I was experiencing in my body. And honestly, I wasn't entirely wrong. My body was reacting to certain foods and that was really obvious. But here's the thing. The real breakthrough came when I healed my nervous system's overactive stress response. And once that happened, my body stopped freaking out over these foods. And I finally regained true food freedom to where I could eat whatever I want. And I can eat whatever I want. And so that's what actually led me, that last step there, that last, thing that I tried, which I guess that's not really a purchase. So, All right, well, whatever. And then maybe that's a bonus. But that is the thing that led me when I was researching why my body was so reactive to so many different foods, why I was sick all the time when I ate so healthy. I mean, like I was eating healthy. It's just my body was reacting to these foods. And so that was where the big reveal came, where what was really going on was made clear to me. So here's the truth. None of these purchases or fixes could heal me because the real problem wasn't in my pantry. It wasn't in my, planner or my lack of nutrients or minerals or anything like that. It was my own brain. I was living with something called limbic system dysfunction. And so for those of you who don't know, the limbic system is a network deep in the brain that controls emotions, memory, motivation, and your fight, freeze, or fawn response. It's also tied to digestion and hormones and the body's ability to regulate itself. Does this all kind of sound familiar? Why all of these things seem unrelated, but actually they're all related. So when your limbic system is healthy, you can handle stress, you can bounce back, you can be resilient, and you can think clearly. The brain fog is gone. The overreactions to small inconveniences are gone. You just respond in normal ways. But when your limbic system is overloaded through repeated trauma or repeated stressors or, hormonal issues like from pregnancy or postpartum or things like that, or repeated sin, it gets stuck in overdrive. And once that happens, the brain begins to perceive everyday life as a threat. And that was me. I had significant trauma growing up that shaped the way that my brain responded to certain stressors, and it carved deep pathways of fear and hypervigilance into my nervous system. And then pregnancy, labor, and postpartum, and the hormonal storms and the sleepless nights and the physical depletion pushed me even deeper into dysfunction. My brain was constantly firing danger, danger, danger signals, even in the safety of my own home. And the symptoms were everywhere. I had overwhelming sensory sensitivities. There's a term, highly sensitive person. So I really connected with that term. I was like, yes, everything. Everything affects me more than it affects, say, my husband. My husband, like a loud noise would go off and I'd freak out. And my husband would be like, what's wrong? Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. Anyway, I became hypersensitive to noise and touch and smells, even certain foods and supplements. Ordinary things like my children's joyful shouts felt just completely unbearable to me. I had cognitive and emotional issues. My brain fog felt so thick that I couldn't think, and I felt like I was just actually becoming dumber by the day. And I had this constant back burner feeling of anxiety, mood swings that I couldn't control, chronic fatigue that made it so that even small tasks seemed like climbing a mountain, you guys. I had too many physical symptoms to count, like POTS, which if you don't know what that is, you can look it up, but basically it's where you feel dizzy spells all the time. Major digestive issues. I talked about that when I was talking about food sensitivities, crazy fluctuations in my heart rate, tachycardia all the time, chronic pain, infections all over, and just constant illnesses all the time. This is why so many of us chase one single cause. We think it must be mold, that mold exposure that I was exposed to when I was, living in that apartment, or Lyme disease, or hormones, or, gluten is the issue, or some essential nutrient that we're lacking in. But the truth is, it wasn't any of those things. It was my limbic system in overdrive, misfiring, amplifying everything and making my brain think that it needed to send pain and stress signals constantly. And here's the hard part. All of those protocols, diets, supplements, gadgets, I spent good money on all those things. They just kept me distracted. They gave me false hope and they kept me chasing solutions that could never touch the root. The reality is this: when the limbic system is dysregulated, it interprets normal things as life-threatening things. So a certain food or sound or smell, even your own thoughts. And the more that you avoid, restrict, and fear, the deeper the dysfunction goes. But here's the hope. The brain can be retrained. God created our brains to be plastic, meaning they're moldable. It's called neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form new pathways. And this means dysfunction is not permanent. You're not stuck. You can literally teach your brain to stop perceiving threats where there were none to begin with. And for me, that was the turning point. When I learned how to calm my limbic system, to interrupt those trauma-driven responses, to rebuild new patterns rooted in faith instead of fear, everything changed. And because I built my rewiring of my brain around Christ, it wasn't just physical healing. It was spiritual freedom. The bondage I was feeling vanished. The Lord used this to heal my nervous system, but also to rewire my brain so that I could stop spiraling in fear and symptoms and live out joy and peace again. That was the answer all along. Not another supplement, not another protocol, but retraining my brain with Jesus at the center. And once I learned to retrain my limbic system, everything changed. I didn't need to keep buying supplements. I didn't need another detox. I had food freedom again, and I could eat whatever I wanted without my body revolting against me. I could finally rest, heal, and enjoy my family again. And I want that for you too, which is why I created my free workshop, which walks you through the exact system that I did step by step to heal my limbic system dysfunction, rewire my brain, and finally find healing. One mom who joined my free workshop wrote me and she said, honestly, Kiri, your free workshop changed my life. I took so many notes. I basically wrote down everything you said, and I was frustrated that I couldn't afford the entire course, but I've clung to what I learned in your free workshop, and it has truly made all the difference in the world. I'm still a work in progress, but just like your video mentioned, my husband noticed a change in me within 3 days. Thank you for finally helping me figure out what's wrong with me, and God bless you and your family.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me and listening to this episode of the Transformed Homemakers Society podcast. If you're ready to escape survival mode and embrace a calmer and more intentional rhythm of motherhood, you can start with my free workshop linked in the show notes. I'd love for you to also leave a review and share this with a friend. It'll help the show to grow and bless even more homes. I'll see you in the next episode.